cold determination remained etched on her face, but her body was barely responding. Victory had come at a staggering cost. The magic she used to seal the creature of the abyss had burned through the very last drops of her strength. All around, the screaming slowly faded. People began to peek out from behind heavy doors, windows, and shop awnings. Some whispered prayers, others couldn't believe their own eyes. To them, she was more than just a warrior. She was a legend that everyone thought had vanished long ago. But a new threat was already looming over the square. High atop an old watchtower, cloaked in darkness and driving rain, stood Archon Malik. His silver mask caught the reflection of lightning flashes. He stared down calmly, his demeanor almost entirely void of emotion. Yet, a seething rage simmered just beneath that quiet surface. He had seen it all. He saw the abyssal hound fall. He recognized the crest of the ancient order on the girl's blade. He saw the crowd's gaze shift from terror to hope. And that, to him, was far more dangerous than any demon. Malik slowly raised his hand. On the surrounding rooftops, in the alleys, and at the entrances to the plaza, figures wearing white masks began to stir. Their cloaks were heavy with rain, yet their mutha forests were floated with great tightness and restless fishing power. They were waiting for his command. Malik's voice cut straight through the downpour. Take her. Alive. The white masks moved instantly. At first, they went unnoticed. One silhouette dropped from a low roof. Another appeared by an archway. A third cut off the street leading to the market. Soon, there were more of them. They emerged from the shadows, as if the city itself was spitting them out of its darkest corners. The last guardian tried to raise her blade. Her hand trembled. Her vision went black for a split second. Her knees buckled, and she would have collapsed onto the wet cobblestones if someone hadn't caught her from the side. It was a young hunter, Ren Kairos, the same boy she had saved in the square, right as the abyssal hound was about to rip him in half. His face was streaked with dirt and rain, a fresh cut bleeding on his cheek, but his eyes were alive, sharp and stubbornly defiant. "Can you walk?" he asked quickly. She didn't answer right away. She just gritted her teeth and tried to straighten up. Ren understood without another word. "Then we run. Slowly," he said. "But we still run." The first white-masked soldier bolted across the plaza toward them. Ren grabbed the girl by the arm and practically dragged her toward a narrow gap between two merchant stalls. Shouts erupted behind them. "They're getting away! Block the streets!" "Keep them away from the gates!" The square came alive once more, not with the dread of a demon, but with the thrill of a manhunt. They ducked into a tight alleyway. Water poured from the rooftops in sheets. They slipped on mud, broken roof tiles, and sodden straw. Ren was practically carrying the guardian. She tried to walk under her own power, but with every step, her body seemed to vividly recall the toll of the last battle. Heavy boots were already thundering behind them. The white masks didn't waste breath on shouting. They moved with the fast, coordinated precision of a hunting pack. Their short blades glinted in the dark. New figures appeared at every turn. It felt as though the entire city had been rigged for this trap in advance. Ren took a sharp turn down a side street. "Not that way," the guardian said softly. "The main gates will be locked." I wasn't planning on the main ones. He rammed his shoulder into a rotting wooden door, and they tumbled into an abandoned house. It smelled of dampness, ash, and forgotten things. The eerie blue light of lightning filtered through a shattered window. They bolted through an empty living room, past a kitchen with an overturned bowl still resting on the table, and slipped out through the backyard. For a fleeting second, they thought they'd lost them. But a white-masked figure dropped from the roof across the way, followed by another. Ren drew his hunting knife, but the guardian had already stepped forward. She raised her sword with both hands, even though her fingers could barely grip the hilt. She parried the first strike, the second too, but the third forced her back. She had nothing left. The White Mask sensed it and advanced. Just then, a soft hiss cut through the rainy air. A crossbow bolt shattered against the stone inches from the pursuer's foot. The White Mask froze. To their left, perched on the roof of a low outbuilding, stood a small figure draped in a dark, hooded cloak. At a glance, it was nearly invisible. Only when lightning lit up the yard did Ren catch sight of pointed ears, reddish fur, and a hand crossbow aimed squarely at their enemies. It was a cat, but not some stray hiding from the rain under a wagon. Ren? This one stood with the steady confidence of a seasoned marksman. A tiny quiver of bolts was slung across his back, throwing knives lined his belt, and his eyes gleamed with a brazen green spark. "One more step, palefaces," the cat warned in a raspy voice, "and the next bolt won't be a warning." Ren blinked. Is that a cat? Despite her pain, the Guardian turned her head slightly. An unusual one, it seems. The White Masks exchanged glances. One of them lunged. The cat vanished from the roof edge so fast, it was as if he had dissolved into the rain. A second later, he was standing on an old shop sign. He fired a second bolt, dropped onto a barrow, kicked off the wall, and threw a knife that severed the lantern hanging over the alley. The courtyard plunged into darkness.
"Run!"
he shouted. "Or are you waiting for them to serve you tea?" Ren didn't argue. He grabbed the Guardian again, and they dashed toward the narrow passage beneath an archway. The cat kept pace, avoiding the ground entirely. He bounded across fences, shed roofs, wooden beams, and stone ledges. He seemed to know every nook and cranny of the district. The White Masks tried to pursue, but they were met at every turn with a bolt to the feet, a falling crate, dislodged roof tiles, or a sudden ambush from the dark. They ran further and further from the central plaza. The city around them began to shift. The wealthy estates and grand stone arches faded away. They were now surrounded by old warehouses, tanneries, derelict courtyards, and moss-covered walls. The rain felt even colder here. The air smelt of wood smoke, wet leather, and river mud. Up ahead, an old service gate materialized in the city wall. Not the main gates of Asgard, plastered with noble crests and guarded by dozens of soldiers. No. This was a forgotten exit for night haulers, scavengers, and anyone who preferred not to be seen coming or going. The gate was bound by a heavy iron chain. Ren cursed under his breath. Perfect. Just perfect. The cat landed beside him, pulled a thin lockpick from his belt, and deftly slid it into the keyhole. "You complain a lot for a guy currently being rescued by a feline, and you talk a lot for a cat. I shoot better than you too." The lock clicked, but in that exact moment, a new sound echoed behind them, heavy, metallic, and closing in fast. A squad of White Masks materialized from the fog and rain. There were over a dozen of them. Leading the pack was a towering warrior wielding a long spear, a silver stripe painted across his mask. He didn't rush. He knew his prey was cornered. The Guardian slowly pulled away from Ren's grip. She could barely stand, but she raised her sword anyway. "Leave," she said quietly. Ren looked at her as if she'd just suggested jumping off a cliff. "Don't even think about it." The cat drew back the bowstring on his crossbow. "I'm with the kid. You can die a heroic death later. Right now, we're on an escape schedule." The White Masks advanced. The Guardian took a single step forward. The air warped around her blade, but her magic flared weakly, almost painfully. She was in no condition to fight. Then Ren snatched a broken spear shaft off the ground, planted his feet next to hers, and gripped it with both hands. "You saved my life in the plaza," he said. Now it's my turn to at least try. The cat narrowed his eyes. What a touching scene. Shame we only have about 3 seconds for it. He fired. The bolt struck the chain of the old hoisting mechanism right above the gate. A rusted beam gave way, sending an avalanche of old crates and rotting planks crashing into the passage. The white masks stumbled back. "Now!" the cat yelled. Ren wrenched the gate open. A blast of cold night air swept in, carrying the scent of damp grass and distant woods. Beyond the city walls, a dark road wound its way up into the hills. There were no torches, no guards, no safety. Just night, rain, and the vast unknown. They sprinted out of Asgard. Instantly, the alarm bells began to toll behind them. One strike, then a second. Soon, the entire city was warring like a colossal beast of iron. Torches flared to life along the crest of the walls. Shouts from the guards blended into the steady drone of the rain. Far away, high in his tower, Archon Malik stared out toward the dark road. His fingers slowly curled into a fist. He didn't yell. He wasn't furious. He simply whispered, "Run. The further you go, the closer you'll lead me to what I seek." Out past the walls, the 3 fugitives didn't stop until the fires of Asgard were nothing more than hazy yellow blurs swallowed by the rainy night. Ren was panting heavily. The Guardian dropped to one knee, barely able to keep her sword upright. The cat stood on a nearby rock, casually shaking the water from his ears, as if outrunning an entire city had just been a brisk evening stroll. Ren looked at him. "Who exactly are you?" The cat adjusted the small crossbow on his back. "The guy who just saved your lives. Usually, this is the part where people say thank you." The Guardian looked up. "Why did you help us?" The cat dropped his smirk for a moment. His eyes hardened. He cast a glance back at the walls of Asgard, where the white mask's torches still burned fiercely. "Because they took something from me," he said, "and it looks like you're heading exactly where I can get it back." The rain kept falling. Ahead lay the road to exile. Behind them, a city that was already mobilizing for a hunt. The last Guardian was wounded and running on fumes. Ren Kairos was no longer just some hunter who needed saving, and a strange, crossbow-wielding cat had brought a secret that could change everything. The night closed in around them, and somewhere far away, beyond the hills, deep within the ancient woods, the soft, eerie call of the abyss echoed once more.